Shut up and sit down.
Loud, unfiltered, and live nationwide. It's the Alex Strouf Show.
And 2020 has been a year of a lot of things, right? I mean, we've talked about it's so unprecedented. It's such a weird time. And times we'll never live in again is what we've been calling this kind of all year, right? And another term I'd use to describe this calendar year is 2020, the year of hot mics and sports. Think about it for a minute. We can talk about the players dropping F-bombs in the NBA bubble. We can talk about what we hear on the field for football, baseball, basketball with no fans in the stadium. We're hearing a lot more that we never have. Or then we can bring up what we talked about a few weeks back, and that is Tom Brenneman. I'm not going to play that audio because he doesn't deserve the time of day after that. But Tom Brenneman saying the things he said on a microphone he didn't know was on. And now today, this morning, we've got something even better. We've got something that might top any hot mic incident that I've ever seen ever. Ever. So this morning at a presentation at the University of Nebraska, Walter E. Carter Jr., he is the president of the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, of course, the University of Nebraska, which plays in the Big Ten. And he was at a presentation talking to another man, but there was a hot mic involved. There was a microphone recording their conversation, as well as a video camera on him even. So it was not only like a presentation, like there was press here to cover the presentation. And the University of Nebraska president, Walter E. Carter Jr., just happened to walk right into this as he's talking to who seems to be a professor who's ever leading the presentation.
Everything that's going on here and with what we're getting ready to announce at Husker in Big Ten football tonight.
Oh, really? I heard that was happening. I didn't. I think there's a lot of anticipation about that. Good for you. Maybe that'll get off your plate.
Well, it never will, but it's
maybe that'll get it off your plate. Yeah, that's the University of Nebraska president saying we're going to announce Nebraska and Big Ten football tonight. Did you hear the reaction of the guy he was talking to?
Oh, really?
Oh, really? Oh, really? Yeah, and a couple hours later, nothing official yet. University of Wisconsin Chancellor Rebecca Blank told ESPN's Dan Murphy she is not going to answer a question about whether the Big Ten is voting this week to play football again this year. That's according to ESPN's Dan Murphy out of the Wisconsin side of this. But the Nebraska side of this sounds like it's going to happen. And as of now, we don't have a ruling. But there's been a couple of weeks of college football. Maybe nothing special by any stretch of the imagination, but some decent games, and it's showing that college football can happen. And the NFL, of course, a whole different ballpark in comparison to NCAA football, but they did a full weekend of football as the day this is coming out. You know, we've had 2 weeks of college football. You have powerhouses like the Miami, Florida. You've got huge universities like North Carolina, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Florida State, Oklahoma, of course, Clemson, of course, Texas, Kansas, that are playing football successfully. And the Big Ten's looking at that and saying, oh, yeah, that makes a lot more sense than playing in the spring, probably having several of our future draftees opt out or lose the opportunity to be drafted. We've talked about it before. The NFL will not move its draft for college football. You think that they're just going to draft kids that are in college? No. That are playing college ball, I should say. No. They want them on their team immediately. And it makes no sense for a huge conference like the Big Ten to play in the spring. It just makes no sense. And they're starting to realize that. This isn't to say COVID isn't real and COVID won't spread because of college football, because that's going to happen. It's going to happen in the NFL. It's going to happen in the MLB, and it has happened in the MLB. It's going to happen in college football, too. You have to expect that. But you need to know how to react and how to respond. And I think these universities and the conferences that are playing already clearly are confident that they have the steps in place to work through that whenever it pops up. And the Big Ten is now looking at these other universities that decided to play and say, maybe they were right all along. And to go on this teeter-totter for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks that the Big Ten has, it's incredibly, incredibly bad look. But everybody will overlook it as long as they do that. And they'll get off the plate. They'll get off the plate of Walter Carter Jr. They'll get off his plate.
Maybe that'll get off your plate.
Maybe they'll get off your plate, Walter Carter Jr., as long as the Cornhuskers are ready to go play some football. Maybe not any good football by any stretch of the imagination, but they're still going to go out and play Big Ten football. It's exciting. We'll see if anything's made official of it later tonight or maybe tomorrow, Wednesday. It's interesting, man. Hot mic, 2020, the year of the hot mic. Who would have thought that's what we'd be calling the year of everything else it's been?